An asset is something of value that is owned by an individual, corporation, or country, which can be converted into cash. What makes God unique is his style of communication and reasoning. God is government. And God, the government, once said, "My ways are not your ways." And to define that statement in a political phrase, it simply means my polity and not your polity. Polity means system of government. God, the supreme government, thinks in whole, and man, the sub-government, thinks in pieces. The way I see it is this: the 8 billion brain of humans presently on earth right now is just like a section in the brain of God. Let me use a Bible verse to back this statement up. A political administrator, which is popularly known as Moses, once said, "1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has gone by, or like a watch in the night." Now, let's talk about the three important assets that God wants you to have. Number one, land. In the history of the world, land is one of the most important and valuable assets a man can have. Countries have gone into war for it, and people have been killed for it. The first asset God gave man was a ready-made land on earth. And to be honest, before Adam picked the fruit, he had nothing to worry about. Once a man makes a lot of money, the first thing that comes to his mind is to get a very good-looking apartment where he can feel relaxed and make some major decisions. That is what is referred to as territory in politics. What assets mean to God is different from what assets mean to man. Assets in man's dictionary is something of value owned by an individual, corporation, or country, which can be turned into cash. What assets mean to God is something of value that can be passed from one generation to another. God is government, and every government appoints someone to manage its resources. If it's mismanaged, the government will send that person away. And why is it so important for you to know? Mismanagement of resources attracts withdrawal. That's the policy of God. Number two, sea and ocean. Although in human sense, seas or ocean is not seen as an asset of an individual, but rather an asset owned by the government of a country. Now, what does it mean that God wants you to have a sea? Sea is a territory that every government doesn't joke with. You can't buy a sea or an ocean as an individual, but you can get a license from your government to operate on seas or ocean. The business that is done on waters is what is referred to as blue economy in our modern world. What is blue economy? Blue economy refers to the sustainable use of resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods, and environmental conservation. The value of the blue economy is worth more than $1.5 trillion per year globally and has an estimated value asset of $24 trillion. Why this is important for you to know is to broaden your mind so you can stop thinking small. The supreme government puts all the resources together so that you can have a share of it and pass it on to the next generation. All you need is the knowledge and skills to dominate these territories. You are a sub-government to the supreme government, and to be honest with you, it's not easy, but it's God policy. Number three, the sky. Before I talk about the sky, I quickly want to share these thoughts with you. During the lifetime of Jesus showed mankind what they ought to dominate by speaking through symbols of action. Let me lay emphasis on that. When Jesus died, he resurrected not through power but authority, that is dominion over the land. Secondly, when he walked on waters was a message of authority he was passing to us. Lastly, Jesus ascending through the air was a sign of dominion over the skies. Don't forget, God, the supreme government, made it clear in Genesis the reason why we are creating mankind. We in that verse is referring to three arms of government. Is for them to dominate over the land, sea, and sky. But only a few people are dominating this territory because of lack of knowledge and abundance of ignorance. And beside that, only a few knows how to think and act correctly. If you ask me, who do I think the real men of God are? I will tell you this: the real men of God are those that are dominating over these territories of God for God, the supreme government, and his people. Now, let me quickly make a comment on the sky before I go. The sky is another territory that your government and only a few people is earning a living from. Thank God for the knowledge of technology. There are several businesses that are relating to the sky or aviation. Some examples are helicopter transportation business, airline company ticketing and reservation services, aviation consulting business, travel agency, supply of aviation fuel, and so on. To achieve all these things is certainly not easy, but if you set your mind to it, it is 100% possible.